Auto Text Me Reporting Insights. I'm Craig O'Neill. With me today is my colleague and friend, Michael Catula. Michael, go ahead and say hello.
What's up, everybody? How are we doing today?
Right. So hopefully everyone is doing well. This is one of our favorite topics. We have very detailed reporting inside of Auto Text Me. These reports are designed to help make your job as a manager, as an owner, as a franchise business coach. It doesn't matter how many stores you have. They're supposed to help you make sure your team is being held accountable to the processes that you have established. That's what reporting is for. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. Here we are measuring a lot. Now, as we move through this, we have a challenge with reporting. We can't really take you through every single element in detail. So we're going to focus this down. As we've discussed in the past, there's really 5 key areas to the entire workflow. You can have a lot more statuses, but we like to understand where people are running into challenges the most, because these reports can help us overcome so many of those challenges. We asked this question in a previous webinar. The results differed slightly on this sample. I've noticed that we still have a very high percentage of people running an issue with the parts ordering and bay management process. We have issues with indicating when work is underway, and that's that blue and red slice of this pie here. And of course, the sales and approvals part of the process. Michael, one thing I thought was interesting about this report was that the initiation and inspection percent dropped significantly. And we've been covering that in some previous webinars. You think we did all right?
We must be helping people. It's the only way that would happen is if it was.
I can't think of any other reason that slice of the pie would have gotten smaller.
I know. Showing we're doing what we're supposed to be doing.
The fact is, what reports can tell you is going to be based on the data that you're getting. So obviously, even a slice of the pie like this, it's only going to be on the sample that we actually pulled. So we're going to talk about that periodically here. Numbers can be very misleading if you let them, and we'll decipher and demystify some of this. First and foremost, a disclaimer on the purpose of this conversation. The reporting in Auto Text Me is vast and expansive, and there are so many different reports that can report on any different thing. I'm just showing you one sample directly from our website. This information is on our website. If you're looking for a quick review of the things that every single report can go over just in a bulleted fashion, hop onto our website, autotext.me/reporting, and there is each report with bullet points there, a couple of pictures as well. Is it going to teach you how to leverage those? Not so much. That's just to make sure you understand what they are capable of. In this conversation, we're going to focus on some of the ways me and Michael in particular use these reports. And as we go into this, we're going to talk first and foremost about the workflow report. And the question that was asked in the beginning of this webinar, we have several bulleted questions. One of them is, where are my bottlenecks? The workflow report is the one that we're going to look at. Michael, we've recently added some of these charts to the workflow report. It's an old report actually, but this is new. Have you had a chance with some of your clients to start looking into this?
Yes, I have. And when I show them, it really starts to open up some eyes as to what's going on. And again, some of it is not necessarily a bottleneck, but it also helps us point out where process is breaking down. As we discussed, that never happens. But in this case, we can look at this report and find where processes can break down very simply. We can also find why. It's giving us the information we need to go find why something is. You look at this report and you see a high weighting on parts, you see a very low servicing time. Well, if we're waiting for parts, that means we're waiting on a lot of parts, which means we should be servicing more. Why are these statistics not showing as we want them to?
Yeah, and this is one of those pieces that has been expanded. Some users will remember and probably still look at the little click here for more details on the top of the page in Auto Text Me. We are showing you average times for statuses in this. This is for the active tickets. And one of those common requests that I really felt like that report in the workflow report, which you of course access from the reports button up here. Workflow report is now, it has not just the bar charts that we were just showing you there, but it also has status averages times. And this is date range selectable. We spend a lot of times working with the shops to build that workflow out, and they have all the statuses figured out for that what you want your team to use. And here in Craig's Awesome Auto Service, the team isn't always engaged. So take this one with a grain of salt. Here, we'll bust this out over 30 days though, and get some more details in my demo site. You can see where most of the tickets on my demo site are in a particular status a lot longer. Check-in with 2,293 cumulative hours of tickets sitting there. This is interesting because it's not just going to show you how your process is working. It's going to show you how well your process is being kept up to date by your team.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I think, Michael, you're saying here is that you've laid out the process, but this is going to show you if they're actually even using the tool in those parts of the process. I want to just really demystify the workflow report. We give you the statuses. You have the ability to track time on each one. And then even further, you can go into each status and see how much time it's been in each one for that individual ticket. So the data that's inside of AutoTextMe is wonderful for this, but all of it depends on the engagement that you have from your team.
Yeah. And, this is also going to help you realize, we've discussed before, a lot of the automation we can do within the swim lane. Are you utilizing that automation to help move statuses out of check-in and into inspecting and into estimating? It's going to let us know, are the techs moving the status to servicing when they start working on the vehicle? And we know from looking at reports on a large number that is probably one of the steps missed the most is that particular step. So it does not really give us the true picture when you look at all the numbers on the report of what's happening, but because it's not giving us that information, it's letting us know where the breakdown in our process is so that we can get that proper information so that we are tracking things in the right way. Because right now we're not tracking how long it's been sitting in servicing, other than the fact I can assume that waiting for approval to QC also includes the servicing time.
And so here's what we're looking for. When me and Michael find this, and this will be true in a lot of shops, especially with how many people reported back to us that they're having trouble indicating when work is underway. And this is a live example from an actual shop. And this particular ticket, you see that it just went pretty much from estimating to waiting approval right into QC. And then it went to ready and it was closed. And you can see the elapsed time that it was in each one. What I believe happened in this case is the process was not updated after the ticket was put in the waiting on approval. They got the sales call, they got the approvals, but it sat there in that status rather than the correction for this, which would be a technician taught to update the status when they commence work on the vehicle. You'll notice that some of these are automated, and we indicate if it was an automation piece that brought it into that status, those work fantastic. Yes, we do have automation to allow a servicing status to be tied with our digital work orders. Only challenge with that is some shops will clock into a simple oil change while they're performing their inspection. And if you're clocking into something, that's the trigger for an automated update. We talked in a previous webinar on the standard operating procedures, our Cinco de workflow back on, I believe it was May 5th that we did that webinar. That's on YouTube. You can consume that, look into that, because we talk about some of those steps that a technician can do to keep that part of the status updated. You have got to assign a responsible party to any statuses that can't be automated. And they need to know that that's part of each job to keep that flowing. That will help you track that time.
Yeah. And it's not something that's going to take them much time to do. It's just getting it to be part of their process. Yep. And when it becomes part of your daily routine, it becomes second nature.
A lot easier when it's a paperless process. You would agree, Michael?
Oh, if you're using a paperless process, the techs are living in the tablet. Clicking a status does not take time. And those are usually the shops that have the highest likelihood of using of the tech doing that, is the ones that are on a completely paperless.
Yeah, and I would agree. A lot of shops that have a hard time getting that initiation of service indicator going when the service begins. It's usually because they're using digital inspections up front at the sales portion of the job, but there's no other digital component to the process at all.
And then it goes to ready.
Yeah, it just goes from DVI done to ready, right? Correct. Exactly. And that's okay. Honest to goodness, if that's the only part of the workflow that you're leveraging AutoTextMe is your sales component, which is really what attracts most people to it, is shortening that sales part of the process, by all means. Just keep your workflow that simple too. No sense in having a bunch of wasted space. Exactly. Now, we talked automation, and this is just a bit of a teaser on the upcoming project that we've talked about it a few times already, but Baywatcher IO, we know that a lot of things need to be automated for shops to stay current. Otherwise, service advisors get overwhelmed. They feel like they're the ones that have to keep things up to date. Chris has done a great job of showcasing this in some cases. And actually, I should probably prove that it's a real thing. This is live data that you're looking at right now based off of cameras reading license plate of vehicles in your bay. This is not available yet to our users. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I just want you to be aware of what we're going to actually, we were just alerted to the fact that our bay time has been exceeded for what it should be on that vehicle. And that's something that you can respond to. These images will keep updating. Next level reporting getting tied to this, you can definitely be assured of that. I am very excited to see this in conjunction with the workflow report. And that workflow report that we were just looking at a moment ago here, if we go back on that slide, I want to talk about this. This is actually born out of the Baywatcher concept. Being able to show just those status times. We decided like, yeah, it's not always going to be great when you're not getting that automated data for the status, for how long it's spending in each status in each bay. But as long as stores are good about updating statuses along their way, there's no reason they shouldn't see this data themselves, even with manual input. But automation coming. I would encourage you guys to come up and talk to us about this. If you get a chance, we'd be happy to show you more. Now, 2 more questions. And this is unequivocally my favorite part of the tool to work with people as we discuss things in a consultation format. I'm going to start over here. Before we dive into how we interpret some of the data, I want to talk about the DVI report as a 30,000 foot view. This DVI report is loaded and jam-packed with features that you can customize. I'm going to show you the ones that I like to look at, and it's already set up on my top bar here. I usually don't, when you're first and new to reports, load this many graphs, but they're actually telling you the same story as these pills at the top. Please, and I'm going to stress this, if you've not played around with the DVI reports before, especially as newer clients join us and it's your first time, connect with me or Michael or one of the other trainers. We've got Greg Kindle with us now as well. We've got Scotty Smyer who's with us, and our training team is very happy to spend the time to work on the metrics and goals that you need. I just want to show very quickly the settings and how simple this is to change these pills. They're simple drop downs. If you wanted to change another variable in here, you can go and click on those. The things I look at don't depend on those pills at all, because I look at one area of this first and foremost. Actually, I'm going to go with a longer date range here, and then we're going to look at a live example and some of the things me and Michael would pull from it. You'll see that spreadsheet section down at the bottom. There are multiple tabs for technicians, advisors, and team pairing, et cetera, et cetera. I don't even need those. I look right here at this because this has the most data. I look for blank spaces in the sends. I look for the volume of pictures. They're all sortable by service writer, by technician, by the type of inspection sheet. You can even sort them by how many issues there are or how many pictures there are. This is pretty detailed, and it's a very quick way to see overall all the completed inspections and how well they were actually performed. Michael, when you're looking at these, what are some of the first things you like to look for?
The first things I like to look for are going to be pictures and items found, making sure that I have a good correlation between those 2 items. Because I'm really looking to see if you're finding, if you're at least taking the pictures of the items you're finding bad, we're at least on the right start to the process. We can add the other pictures that we like to see in there, but at least making sure you've got those types of items done, great. The other first thing I like to look at is DVIs completed to DVIs sent to DVIs viewed.
Right.
Because that's telling the rest of the story. Are we doing good DVIs? Then are those DVIs getting in the hands of the customers? So a lot of times you'll find that they're not being sent, but then you go look at the DVIs and they're not being sent because they're not doing good DVIs. Right. Or, they're doing good DVIs, they're not being sent. But again, this is the data that we're taking so that we can go to a shop and say, listen, here is what, the reason why customers are not buying or getting to the full benefit of the DVI is because they're not seeing the DVI. They're not seeing the DVI because it's not being sent. It's not being sent because there were no pictures on it.
Yeah, so I would look at it like this, right? The first thing I do, which is just slightly different, I definitely like looking at those pictures as well, but I look first and foremost for the white space inside of this sheet. The reason I do that is because it's so eye-popping.
It's right there.
It is. Yeah. And obviously if you've resolved this, that's great. But this had 18 images. This is a live shop. We've obfuscated any personal data from the shop involved, but this obviously very recent inspection results. So from a live environment, I want to stress that these are, there's 18 pictures in this DVI. Was it sent by text? Nope. Was it sent by email? Nope. Did the customer review it? Of course not. They didn't even have it sent to them. And that's how we would be able to see it. It took the technician 21 minutes to do this, but we didn't use that time that the technician spent at all in our presentation. So if you're asking, are your advisors leveraging the DVI, you can just pop straight onto that DVI report and scroll straight down in this section and look for any white space.
On the sense, especially. And then a lot of times you're going to find in a shop like that where it looks like they have a very high percentage of scent rate.
Yeah, Craig Dawson is good.
Yeah. And then you're going to find out, oh, well, they're a waiter. I don't send them to waiters. And you're going to get those types of things back. And that's when you say, no, we send them to everybody. And we've discussed that before in our previous webinars.
We will have to beat that drum until I see no more white space in any shops.
Exactly.
I will challenge everyone here right now. Open up your DVI report, pull out the last month. I like looking at it monthly. A lot of stores will do it weekly, but open your DVI report, go into last month and quick scan here and look for this item. It's going to be there. You're going to have it, especially for how busy everybody's been in the last couple record-breaking months in shops. The process breakdowns begin to show up, especially when things, it is why I love it when shops get busy, because you can start to see where their base level habits finally get to that tipping point. But these links, everything in here is completely clickable so that you can go and figure out that story on this particular inspection. All those links right inside the report. I'll just use this one as an example. We've got a Joe Palooka inspection. How about that? Notice this is read only. If you go into this sheet, after the ticket's been closed, it's read only. It will still be on your DVI report if the ticket's not been closed. So just check that status. It's also reported there. This particular ticket is closed. Yes, you can still carry a conversation with the client if you had to. Up there shows the benchmark score. And we can go and let's just take a look. What kind of images was the technician taking, right? You can go and see this. It's all right there. You can't change any of the data in this particular case, but you can go and see the story even in that change log. If we want to see who said what and when, all that stuff is there. If I want to see if Lee, my test technician, was involved in this ticket, he wasn't. If I did anything on sway bar links, all this information is in that change log. It's a lot of data. It's your data. It's always available to you, and it'll be easy for you to get to. What I'd like to do in this shop, and I specifically chose the shop's example here that I was using because I want to draw attention to another thing. You see the yellow items, 16 yellow items on that DVI. It's like, wow, that's really interesting. I'm not going to go into another shop's DVI in this view, but I will also challenge you when you're looking at this, check for this. Because if you are concerned about how your technicians are performing inspections, a great deal of yellow items is not generally a good indicator. We've talked about this before. We could spend way too long on it. Yellow items are generally maintenance pieces. If there's something that you need to recommend for service, make that red. We don't want to give any false pretenses to the customer on something being yellow and saying, you can get by with that for now. Every time I've seen a shop have a high volume of yellow items, it's usually because of two things. One of them is that the owner did not clarify what they want to see for red and yellow items. You have to define that for your team. And the second reason is the technicians performing inspections have some anxiety about performing inspections. They feel often like it's a high pressure sales gimmicky tool, which that is not how they're supposed to be used at all. They're a professional responsibility to make sure the vehicle is safe, reliable, and efficient. I'll say that again. This is a good indicator that you need to talk with those technicians. This is a good indicator that you need to talk with your service advisors. Notice all that data is compact very neatly into one spot without having to go into overlapping regions of the tool. Michael, do you ever have questions on benchmark scores?
Oh my gosh, people ask me all the time, hey, what is this benchmark score? And it's something that I think doesn't get utilized quite as often because there is a level of setup and you have to kind of base understanding of where to find it, what to do with it.
And there's a misconception on it being only based off of a technician's performance in the DVI.
No, it's the team.
It's the team.
It's the teams.
Yes.
It's just like, you can have a team that the offense scores 42 points, but if the defense gives up 44, it's still going to lose that game. Even though the offense performed well, the defense didn't.
Let's demystify a little bit of this, because if a technician performed an inspection, they're responsible for certain things that you need to specify. I honestly don't care about one class versus the other when it comes to the quality of the inspection. I just care about the quality of the inspection overall. And that's what our benchmark score is for, an overall quality of the inspection. It is different in every shop on who's responsible, if anyone, for marking up images. Is it the technician's fault that there's 0 points attributed to him in the benchmark score? Not at all. If a service advisor is responsible for that. Is it the technician's fault if that report was not sent by text or email? That is a part of the weighted score in this particular shop. Is it the technician's fault if the customer didn't view the inspection? Man, unless it's their fault that the service advisor didn't send it because they did a terrible inspection.
That aspect.
No, it's not. Now, if you did want to use that benchmark score for only technician information, you can do that, but it is up to you to set the weight for each of those scores. In DVI setup, you can go down into the benchmark, you can turn it on, and you can specify, hey, if you want notes and images and markings for each inspection, you can put those point values on there, videos as well. The report being sent and the report being viewed, decidedly service advisor variables.
Yep.
If you don't want to weight it, you can take all the points away and not weight it. And then you'll have a benchmark score that's really just going to be based on the technician giving you notes and images.
Yep.
Please bear this in mind. When it comes to the benchmark score, the only items that are weighted are items that are yellow or red.
Yep.
So you don't get bonus points for green things. These are about making sure that our picture policies that are typical in most shops, which is if it's marked yellow or red, it gets a picture. Yeah. Actually, I have my van in a shop right now for the slider door getting jammed up. I'm done working on my own car in my garage, guys. And the roller is jammed. And I asked them for the image, they're a client, and they said, there's no spot to take the picture. It's in there too far, but that's what we see on there. It's like, and I'm thinking, like, is it something that can be unseized? It's Michigan penetrating solution to get some of the rust off. I don't know. And I get that it's hard to see, but even if I were an uneducated client, just take a picture as best you can of that region, just to show that this is the region we're talking about. This is where that part is located. Some assumption that I know about minivans evidently on this particular case, but
a year's working for Honda knows exactly.
Want to know how many doors a transmission shop pulls off on a regular basis? It's 0. No, but that's the benchmark score. And I just want to point one more thing out on that, and we'll move right on. Is that in the DVI report, if you want to sort this out, you can see the score is going to be, it's kind of low on my screen right there. It is one of those things that I like to set up with a chart. These can be popped open and expanded for better readability. If you want to see if your technicians or your team in general, service advisors or anyone else, are achieving your benchmark score, you can set all those averages up. And this line right here is our benchmark. I want to see a score of 7. In my case, I do consider 7 a pretty strong score for most benchmarks if you're weighting them the same way I do. So anytime it's over that, that's generally really pretty good. And you can set some of those targets on these. These are daily targets, mind you. So I usually ignore any of the total based metrics and I focus on averages. And that's why I have that average benchmark score listed with a 7. DVI percent viewed and texted and emailed, all very high. Although I want to see 100, I put the goal at 90 because I do want to see those going above that line. You can see in this particular one, there's my target. This user is getting above that. The other users aren't doing anything because it's a demo store. No one's data is being hurt here though, so you're welcome. Now, please, if you want to have help setting this up, again, I'll make a point of this again later as well. Me and Michael are happy to reach out to you as our other trainers. Michael, is there anything else you want to add on that topic?
Not on the benchmark score. You kind of covered the nut of that.
Yeah, this is a neat view. I'll let you go ahead and explain this just a moment here.
Yeah, and what we're kind of looking at here is an overview score. And what I'm trying to really pull is this is kind of the overview of the DVI and your master report. And it's showing us the months and what we're doing as far as how many texts we're sending, how many DVIs were sent, how many texts we're sending per clients. And this is going over the time frame of 4 or 5 months here, 6 months. Sorry.
This one's more aimed at MSOs. This particular view is available for shops with a multi-shop report, but this is an individual store that we're looking at. Those same variables are there for each store.
This is where this is a shop that I recently did help. This is a live shop. They did come to me and say, hey, you can look at these numbers and look that where are we weak? Where are we having problems? They had been on the tool for about 9 months when they reached out to me. And so this is basically going into how we do utilize these reports to help the shops.
You're seeing the actual change once you started managing things with them. I'm looking at it here. You can see exactly back in March, right? They had only sent 58 of their 155 inspections.
And it was in April when they reached out to me. We started going into this in April, and then you can start to see that improvement in May and June.
Yeah.
And it was a total problem because high number of DVIs, but no pictures, no DVIs being sent. So we needed to work both the technicians and the advisors in this instance, because it was, again, that team effort where everybody needed some effort. And by using the reports, we knew where to focus that attention, and everything is turning around at that location.
It's a wonderful thing that's probably literally the most fulfilling part of our job.
It is the most rewarding, especially when you have that long conversation and you get into the reporting and you find the areas, and a lot of times the fixes are not big fixes. It's not massive things that need to be changed. It's just small tweaks and changes, and hey, but it's knowing where to look for those issues and knowing how to decipher this data that we have to put it into the practical use.
Yeah. And all those things play together because we want those inspections viewed and be a meaningful document for the customer. There's several integrations now that have the sales report, Protractor, TechMetric users for sure, Tire Shop, also one of our partners that will be able to have this. This is based off of sales information compared to the digital inspection results in AutoTextMe, so that you can see for yourself what the ARO value of a viewed inspection is versus the ARO of a non-viewed inspection. This is a customizable report in the same way. I'm not going to go too far into this one right now, but if you have one of those integrations and you want to have this figured out, look into it, because we like to go a little bit further in some analysis. These numbers are based off of a real shop. This is a couple months ago that I pulled this report, and that was a snapshot of their DVI viewed versus DVI not viewed. This is a pretty standard thing in a lot of the tire shops to see a difference like this. This is actually one of the smaller differences that I pulled, but you can see 102 different tickets with DVIs not viewed. That's still with all tickets of no inspection, by the way. It isn't just with DVIs performed and not viewed. This is tickets in general that had no viewed inspection. So it's capturing that data for all the tickets combined. If we start, there's some neat things in that report too. You can add images and videos to it, but ultimately what I tried to figure out is what the potential earnings would have been if all of the tickets could have had a viewed inspection. I can share a spreadsheet like that with you. Several of you I know are perfectly gifted in building your own spreadsheets with information like this. And obviously, if they had done an inspection and had it viewed for each of those, is that the actual true dollar amount? Now, there's all sorts of variables that you could have impact ARO. I find it a terrible statistic in many regards, but we do know there's direct dollar value correlation to inspections being viewed, and that report will prove that to you and your team. If you're having sluggishness on your advisors and you have access to the sales report through the integrations, show them this, because that will make them a believer. Everybody feels like they're a good salesman and can sell most of the work that they need to do. But when you start to see how these things impact it, that's going to get them engaged in the process a lot more fully.
And you can utilize that particular report for multiple areas.
Yeah.
A shop that I was working with just recently, last week, their big issue was they wanted to improve what they were doing. They weren't doing a lot of DVIs because they were getting too many cars.
Yeah,
so broke down. So they
Common problem
weren't
last
doing
couple months.
DVIs on a lot of cars. But what we found was the percentage of the number of the dollar amount per ticket with a DVI viewed versus a DVI not viewed was several $100s per car.
Wow.
And you almost start to look at this as, am I doing everybody a good service by having so many cars come in the shop on a daily basis? Would I be better off limiting the number of cars, doing a better process on every car? I'm doing the customer a better service, the techs are happier, and we're making more money.
You're talking about being more thorough on each of those vehicles. Yeah.
That come in.
These sort of reports will really, those guys that like to challenge this, is car count more important or making every car count more important, right? And I'm firmly in the camp of, I'd rather have fewer cars and less stress and do a better job on each one of them for more money per car than I would have a ton of cars and be losing my mind. We've been through that cycle before, even in a transmission shop. Yes, we can have too many cars for long cycle repairs, especially.
And also, if you're missing safety items on people's vehicles because you're not doing a proper process, are you helping your customer in any way just by getting the car through?
Right.
They're leaving with a vehicle that might be unsafe because you didn't have time to look it over. But that's a whole nother conversation.
It is. No, but yeah. And we have a question from can we get the sales reports to aggregate for all locations together for multi-shop outlets? That's a fantastic question. The sales report does not do that yet. However, inside of every report, if you're in your main store, this is pretty cool. You have the ability to go in and you'll be able to sign in as the MSO. I'm not signed in this particular case, but you'll have a drop down for each shop. So you'll be able to move quickly through each shop from one login without having to go log into each and every single one. So we can discuss that further if we need to. And as soon as Google lets me back into my slide, we'll be in good shape. Signed out. There we are. Let's get right back in. Sales report, engage report. We're going to move on to the texting question. Are we texting effectively? Clearly a bedrock piece in Auto Text Me. This is one of those things where there's not a hard metric out there for how many texts should your shop send versus how many texts should we receive. But this is going to show you overall how the tool is being used to communicate. The engage report does a little bit more than just the communication piece. So there's a lot of information on this. Very pretty colors. I'll show you the couple of them that we look at real quick. First and foremost, if you're using our tool and you're engaged in the workflow and it's completely silent, yes, I know there's a few of you out there. Texting is not scary. We'll get you around. But that's how many customers are engaged by the tool. You could have no text go, and that's what a customer who's engaged in the workflow is counted as. This as a comparison of how many tickets are checked into the shop and everything else is basically showing you how many customers are on the board for the time period that you selected. You'll see that there's only 406 new check-ins, the first status that it hits during that time frame. These numbers will often be out of sync because a lot of tickets were already on the board before those date ranges. See, this number can frequently be higher. The one I will encourage you to look at first and foremost is customers engaged with texts. This should always be bigger than this number. And this is a healthy environment in this store because that is true. If you're engaging 500 customers, but only 12 of them received a text message, you're not engaging effectively, right? And total text receive is exactly that. That's how many replies come in from the customer versus total text sent. Whether you're sending just status updates or you're conversational, a lot of times this is dramatically higher than the text receive, as it should be. I consider a really healthy texting relationship with a client to mean about, they give me one reply for every 4 messages we send out. It is not going to be that way for all of your clients. So this number is usually a fair amount lower, but in a 1 month period, you should have this over a few hundred easily on a busy shop, depending on the size, of course. Follow-up messages that were sent out by the tool, scheduled appointments are counted. how many check-ins with the kiosk for the scheduler. This one is using our scheduler on their website, and that's how many appointments came in through that online scheduler tool, which is fantastic. AI responses when the program itself replies with our automated text messages. All these things are tracked here, but by far the coolest is the sentiment analysis. You see positivity, negativity, and neutrality of messages. Hey, we work in a kind of a negative sales environment, right? This is common to see negative terms like sorry, this needs to be fixed, and the AI is going to pick up on a lot of those terms, and they're going to seem negative. It doesn't mean they're mad at you. It means you're talking about something sad. So just be aware of that. And you see the bar charts there on over a period of time, how the days correlate with the messages inbound. The engaged report is pretty fun. It's pretty self-explanatory once you understand that difference between customers engaged with text and customers engaged. If you do get questions on that, we can dive further into it. But this is where we want to do store-by-store comparisons. And I would love to see these simple statistics for just our single store locations as well. For you multi-shop operators, the new MSO report is by far one of the most valuable pieces of the tool. And this is getting a little bit of an enhancement too with our new group sheets you'll see in a second. I'm going to go into my demo site here. I have some other demo sites tied to my demo site. Together, this is a very underperforming enterprise in terms of statistics, but I wanted to be able to show you how you can click into this. Each store can be clicked on. You can, of course, see that 6-month view. Michael had that image on a previous slide showing that for one location. This is showing Craig's Awesome Auto Service over the last 6 months, how many inspections I'm performing in training or demos, right? So total DVIs and sent and images, all that stuff is right there. And down here, I like to have this visual set up in a fashion like this. Tickets created versus DVIs, and I like to see DVIs versus sent DVIs. And some of our better franchises and multi-shop operators, you almost cannot see this green bar because it's buried in that blue bar. When you get those sends right up into the, to equal the amount of DVIs that you perform, that's really cool to see. So I usually would very quickly encourage you to hop in here and do this. Look at the DVI line, look at how many are performed, and then look at the sent DVIs. And you can see I sent all 2 of the ones that I did in the month of July on that demo site. And I had 15 images across them, right? So this is very good. You'd pop that open and that green bar and that blue bar for that time period, you can see they were perfect. It wasn't true back in May, April, or March. Clearly, we fixed the problem by taking on fewer demo tickets. But no, that's what these sort of things will tell you. And I will definitely reassure you that when you start to see this overall stat here, tickets created and DVIs, watch this. I encourage any of you multi-shop operators that are with us today, open the new MSO report, come down there and pick one of your prize locations and look at that blue bar in the green bar. Close everything else out of your way to clean this up. And you're going to see the total number of tickets created. You're probably going to get this sort of a camel hump effect on this because the amount of DVIs performed, the busier you get. And then this being a demo site, take this with a grain of salt, but I assure you, you're probably going to see a very similar graph on your store. It's pretty interesting. You start to understand what their threshold actually looks like when you use it this way. Like once they start getting over 13 tickets here at Craig's Awesome Auto, the DVI process falls apart. So I think you're going to have more fun with your real numbers. And again, I'll say it again, me and Michael would love to connect with you and review these. Once we help you create a routine through these reports, you're going to know exactly where you want to come and what statistics look at and which ones you're trying to manage through what correction of behaviors. In this particular case, if I saw a shop where you have a high volume of cars and low performing DVIs.
Yeah, you're gonna, it's an easy way to find the red flags. I mean,
well,
it's very visual in that way.
You got a couple options, right? You can take on a lot less cars, or you can take on more people, expand your facility to handle everything and refine your process. You're going to have to go through a few hard questions on stuff like that, because you're going to see, and I would encourage you to pull open that sales report for a shop that was performing this range, see what those sales numbers started to look like as you got busier, see what those profit numbers look like too. These things all complement the existing KPIs that your shop should already be looking at. And if you're working with a business coach, this is a great spot to be able to get them some access to. You can access it with the administrator login in your main store, or if we've created a specific MSO corporate location for you. If they're trustworthy to do on that, there's no client data in here. This is just store numbers. This is a great spot for them to help you do some oversight on this. In this particular one, this is a live MSO. Michael, tell us what we were looking at on this one.
Well, this is one we were trying to identify locations that were underperforming. And one thing with this is, at a quick glance, looking at 13 different locations at one time, it's very easy to pull out those low percentages. Because we give the percentages within the statistics, it's very simple to go through and look for the low percentages, and that's underperforming. You can see that's the location 8 and 9, both underperforming in DVIs and DVI sent. And a lot of time those two things do correlate, because poor DVIs don't get sent. So we can pull out the number of images at location 4 and say, hey, they're doing a lot of DVIs. Because if you just look at the number of DVIs being completed and go, hey, look, we're doing a lot of DVIs. Again, that's not telling the whole story until you dive in and start looking at what is the quality of those DVIs being done.
Right.
So completing, 237 DVIs and having 271 photos, just barely one photo per DVI is not really meaning we're doing a good job on our DVI.
Like, and asked about aggregation of the reports, like for the sales numbers. It'd be pretty interesting to see some stats in this, but this is exactly what our goal was with DVI stuff. You should be able to very quickly look at this and see some of these numbers. Hey, this one looks okay. Right. I mean, it was on par with some of the other locations there, and I think this one's a tire store. So their goal is actually only around 50% of the vehicles get inspections. Yeah. Still low in my opinion, but that many inspections with only that many pictures. Yeah. It stands out. From there, you go into those other reports that we had for each of the stores. That's where you would want to go to that store, open the DVI report, check in on the technicians on that location. It all just becomes connected.
But you can see the average text. Say that average text per client though is where
I love that. Yeah, no, because I usually try to say at least 4 per client. And as an average, when you're 3, this store, I remember they came on initially for texting purposes and then moved on to an actual inspection process. So very good to see.
But that means they're leveraging that means they're leveraging their workflow and sending out text messages to their customers at appropriate touch points.
Right. And I don't expect y'all to remember what all these abbreviations are. When you mouse over these on your actual report, it's going to tell you more details about it. Total number of tickets closed, total number of tickets added. You've got total outbound messages, total multimedia messages that you text that specifically just have a picture. All those sort of things are highlighted for you. And you can change the order on all these. Pretty simple. Especially going back on different months too, you can actually look at it across a period of time. Statistics, neat thing on that too. If you ever did, and some of you probably have not clicked this button, but you should do that. When you're logged in as your admin on the site that has access to your new MSO report, this is going to show you the raw totals of what your whole enterprise had put out, which is just a fun thing to see how many DVIs you got done across your entire enterprise. The amount of text messages is staggering. There's some pretty neat statistics that you can extrapolate from here. And we talked on this already in Craig's Awesome Auto, but this is a live store. So you can actually see, I love this one too. Same group, right, Michael, that you pulled this picture from? Yeah, so the tickets created. Actually, we have the customer text as well. You can't even see the light blue line because it's embedded in that dark blue line. So every customer that they had a ticket, that customer got a text, which is beautiful. But the number of DVIs was very low compared to tickets created. Yeah, and that green and blue line here, we're also showing the images are really low. That image line on a healthy shop should be so high that it would actually, I usually have to turn off that image bar in order to not confuse myself. because when you have this line on here that changes the scale of that report, there's usually so many more images compared to inspections. I just have to hide that. Yeah. Yeah, but you can see that green and blue line still a gap there. So not only are they underperforming on the DVIs, but they are also underperforming in the ones that they do aren't even getting sent in enough cases. And that's what, of course, triggered your.
Their call to me. And
Yep. Hey, it's learning process. It takes a couple months for a larger enterprise to get all the locations up to speed, depending on what infrastructure you have for that. Obviously, lean on us to support as much as we can. We will. Now, this one's new. This one's brand new, actually. So if you have 1, 2, 3, 4 locations versus 200, Group Sheets report is a super cool addition. This is showing you how each of your stores performs with a specific inspection sheet. And I'll go into it in my live environment here just because it's a little easier to click on some stuff. I'm going to go into the Group Sheets report. You'll find it right there in your report dropdown. And this one's going to let you select which inspection sheet. If you have multiple sheets, it's really handy, or you can just do all sheets. And very familiar. It should look a little bit like that DVI report that we went into. We even have some of the same pills here, but instead of when you click on this in a regular store, you're going to see the technicians who take pictures and be able to see their statistics. On the Group Sheet report, you're going to see the shop and their aggregated amount on each of these. This is next level to me, because once you get into that process of universalizing a sheet, you will start to see which of your shops at a glance have good practices with that particular sheet. Pretty neat stuff. Issues found, notes, images, videos, markings. We aren't showing you the send time like we would at an individual customer level. Remember, on the DVI report, this is customer information in here and technicians and service advisors. Now it's just those raw store numbers. This one's super fun. Now, those graphs, by the way, I'm going to caution you if you have more than 10 stores in your group, which there's some of you out there that absolutely do or will. The charts I would keep very simple, because this is going to pull out information for each of the locations involved, and you can turn those on and off. This is probably going to be ugly if you have way too many locations. You can turn them off here, but I would just focus, if you do decide to use some of these charts, on simple metrics like, are they using like Moto Visuals? That's what this one's counting. Are they putting those instructional videos on the DVI, or maybe average benchmark score? The ones that I care about the most are simply these pills up here. I want to know how well my shops are sending, and in particular, the viewership.
Yep.
So that is the Group Sheet report. Play with that. All of you here that have multi-stores, please let us know. And if this encourages some of you that don't have another shop yet to get another shop, let me know that too. Because this for me was one of my goals early on. I really wanted to have a second location with the family business, but didn't pan out. I would have had a lot of fun with this sort of thing. So now I do want to open it up for any further questions. And I also want to remind you one more time, don't wait for us to call you. We do monitor this. We look for drops in activity of any of our clients. Don't wait for us to call. We want to hear from you, because we want to get with you and get your team using as best as you can before you hit any barriers. There's always, like Michael said earlier, simple tweaks. It's always something simple, bite-sized pieces.
Yep.
Michael, anything you want to add? Anything we missed?
I don't think so. There's a lot more we can go into, but we do have time is finite. So, but the one thing, and I think Craig hit on it, at any point, if you need any help with setting up your reports, diving into the reports, looking for areas, feel free, always reach out to us. We really enjoy these conversations. We enjoy having them with the shops, and we really do enjoy helping the shops improve their process and improve the way they run. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Hey, we help a lot of shops onboard new clients coming on. That's always an exciting part. That's something that usually when people are talking to us, it's the first time that they're meeting with us. Trust me when we tell you, we are super eager to get beyond the basics of the program and dive really deep into these reports to make sure your team's doing what we want. Just take it in bite-sized pieces, and you'll be surprised. We can definitely guarantee some results as we track this. All right. Any other questions out there? Anything you wanted to ask to Michael? I was hoping there'd be a question on some of the elements inside of the DVI report in particular, but I think we covered it too well.
we did spend a good bit of time in there. It's a fun report, but
It
yeah,
is.
as of right now, I don't, not seeing anything come across.
Yeah. Well, I'll just say, hey, come and talk to us. Chris and I will be out there at the next one is Shop Hackers, Tennessee. So if there's anyone in that group that'll be down there, we'll be ready to talk to you a little bit about what this is looking like coming up too.
Yeah, I think I'll be there too.
Yes, Michael, you're gonna be there too, right?
I will be at
Yes.
Shop Hackers. Yeah, I'll be doing
I
Shop
can't keep it
Hackers.
straight. So many.
I know,
so
so
many
many.
venues.
Now we're traveling again.
Yay. All
We get
right.
to see people.
Very
All
good.
right.
Well, everyone, we appreciate you joining us today. If you want to see recordings in this or consult with us, here's the contact information, but we will email you the recording. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Bye, everybody.